We are transitioning to our featured presenters today. So building on our topic from last month of transportation sustainability, we are doing a deep dive into EV charging, and we're going to hear about it from two really great local angles. So I'm really excited to welcome Erin Monroe-Nye from MG&E, one of our DMI members and great supporters. She is the Energy Services and Policy Manager there and is going to talk about what's happening with MG&E. And also to welcome and introduce maybe some of you to Mark Seitz, who comes to us from Franklin Electric, awesome company that has a really strong presence right here in Madison, and they're doing some very innovative things in the EV space. Mark is the senior business unit manager there, and I think he is going to kick us off with our presentation. So they'll each present for a little bit, and then we'll have time for questions from all of you. All right, I'll hand it off to you, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Morgan, so much. Jason, can you share my presentation? I am having a little bit of a difficulty with that, so.
Absolutely, I'll pull it up right now.
Thank you so much. There we go. All right, so yeah, thank you everybody for having me here. This is great to be able to talk about this. So yeah, I'm with Franklin Electric. We are located here in Madison. We're right on the border of Madison and McFarland, so been on the south side. We just looking at the picture, just kind of show you who we are real quick. We've been for many years in the liquid fueling market, gas stations. You know, when you pull up to a Quick Trip or something like that, we build almost everything that's underneath the concrete. Stuff you never see is the stuff we build. All the infrastructure, the pumps, the sensors, the gauges, computers, controls, all that stuff we build. So we've been in liquid fuels for a long time, been a leader in that market. We also have a pretty good presence in the electrical grid market. We make a bunch of monitoring equipment that is used to monitor the health of the grid, transformers, circuit breakers, stuff like that. And this third division that was created about a couple years ago, is EV. So as you can imagine, a lot of companies in the oil and gas industry are starting to transition over to EV because the world is going that way for sure. And we didn't want to be left behind. And obviously we got to keep our stockholders happy. So we are transitioning ourselves to EV. But with that said, one of my next slides is going to kind of show as we're transitioning to EV, it's going to take longer than we anticipate. But let me get to that in a second. So this is my next slide. Chaos is a new normal. And I put this up here because this EV market it's a crazy market right now. There's an announcement that's coming out every day basically that changes the direction of where we're going. You know, either Tesla is doing something or the major automakers are grouping up together to form a new company to do something to battle what Tesla is doing. So it's really kind of crazy what's going on out there. But it's the kind of market I love to be in. I love the markets that are changing and new to the world. So this is a great place, great time to be in the transportation market for sure with EV coming up. All right, let's go to the next slide. Excuse me. So this is kind of what I was just talking about prior was, you know, we're transitioning over to EVs right now. I think currently we're at roughly 6 to 7% of new sales is EV in the US. But that still leaves about on the road, there's only 1 to 2% of those cars on the road are electric. You know, if you look at 2035, and these are projections are all over the place. There is no one for sure projection, obviously. This one I think came from New York Times, and they're looking at 2035, roughly 25% of new car sales will be EV. But even at that point, 25%, one out of every 4 car being sold is an EV. You still have only 13% on the road is electric. And then on the far right, 2050, if you're selling 60% EVs as far as new car sales, you still have less than half on the road that are electric. So I think the moral of the story is, you know, considering the average life of the car is 12 years, even by 2050, where almost half the cars, more than half the cars are electric by sales, there's still going to be a ton of gas engines still on the road. So we're transitioning, but it's going to take longer than I think a lot of us anticipate. I throw a lot of this stuff out there because I'm obviously 100% supporter of EV. I work at a company that supports EV, but we have to be realistic as far as projections and ICE, what we call ICE engines, internal combustion engines. They're going to be around for a little while, a long time. So we have to just make sure we include that in our planning. All right, next one. Just to do some quick level setting here, just to make sure we're on the same page here. There is, three types of EVs out there. There's HEVs, which is hybrid. There's PHEVs, plug-in hybrids, and BEVs, which are battery electric vehicles. Battery electric vehicles are the Teslas out there, are the other cars that are coming up where they're pure battery. There is no ICE engine. The range is, I think, probably on average 300 miles per charge. And it is, again, a pure battery, no ICE engine. And obviously one of the big things, and the number one, and I'll talk about this in a bit, the number one headwind to EV adoption is range anxiety. And that is what we're all trying to battle right now with the government, with their funding coming out to build out the charging network throughout the country. BEVs do have that one headwind, is that if you run out of battery power, you don't have an ICE engine to fall back on. So BEVs are really picking up in popularity, but they do have that headwind. And as soon as we can build out the infrastructure to be able to charge these things throughout the country, they're going to really take off a lot faster than they have. Plug-in hybrids, that's kind of a plug-ins, it's kind of a combination of battery and ICE engine. Nice thing about plug-ins, obviously, is when you run out the battery, you got the ICE engine to fall back on, so you don't have that range anxiety. But their range on the battery is a lot less than the BEV. It's maybe about 50 miles, and then it flips over to ICE engine. But again, you don't have range anxiety, which is a huge thing for a lot of people. And then the HEVs, that's the old Priuses where you just have a battery on board. There's no way to plug it in. It just gets charged from the engine. Better than just an ICE engine, but still not as good as the other electric vehicles. All right. So to level set us too with the charging, level 1 charging, 120 volt AC, plugging it at home. Obviously, there is no infrastructure to worry about, but it takes your car probably about 3 or 4 days to do a full charge. It is a really slow charging method. Level 2 charging, a lot of people are getting level 2 charging at home now, and you find these at the shopping centers and the movie theaters and stuff like that. Level 2 is a 240 volt AC system, whereas level 1 was 120. Level 2 is 240. It's like your dryer outlet is a 240 volt AC. Charges your car a lot faster. You can charge your car with a full charge overnight at home with that. And the cost is still relatively reasonable. At home, it's still under $500. Level 3 is where Franklin Electric is playing. This level 3 is important because level 3 is what's going to be needed to build out this infrastructure throughout the country so people can take road trips and not worry about running out of charge. Level 3 is going to be going where the gas stations are now throughout the country. Level 3 is fast. You can charge a car anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, depending on the car and depending on the power of the charger. But it's expensive. So a level 3 charger, to build a level 3 site will cost anywhere probably depending on how many chargers, between $500,000 up to $1 million. So it is a very expensive way to charge. And that's one reason you don't see a lot of these level 3 chargers out there right now, is because it's expensive and it's hard to make the numbers work out as far as profitability. And that's where the government is jumping in to kind of kickstart that. Okay, next one. Almost done here. So NEVI, there's 2 programs that are coming out down from the government. NEVI, National Electrical Vehicle Infrastructure, $5 billion over 5 years to build out the alternative fuels corridor. What they want to do is they want to put a charging site every 50 miles along these important highways throughout the country, so you can take a road trip with your EV and not worry about running out of charge, hence reducing your range anxiety and hence increasing EV adoption. If you want to do a NEVI site, you need 450 kW DC fast chargers. And again, the primary benefit is to reduce that, range anxiety. Then there is a CFI program, the charging and fueling infrastructure. Again, more money to build up the infrastructure. But the cool thing about this is it's not just for the infrastructure, it's also for communities. So I think if Madison was going to look for some funding for the internal within Madison charging, that'll probably be the CFI program as opposed to the NEVI program, because the NEVI is again for the road trips outside of cities to get to the next big city. All right. Last slide. This is an interesting slide. I put this up here because I come across this a lot of people saying, well, EVs really aren't good for the environment compared to ICE engine because it takes more carbon, it takes more greenhouse gases to manufacture an EV than it does an ICE engine car. And that is true. I mean, we all should know that. That graph on the right, on the left there is, it shows you the different amounts of greenhouse gases to produce each of these. The manufacturer, that's an important one. The well to wheels, the well to tank, the well to tank, the tank to wheels. Those two are the important ones. And you can look at that, the manufacturing colored one, where it increases from the ICE engine all the way to the BEV, which is shown that, yeah, it does take more greenhouse gases to manufacture electric vehicle. So that is true. It takes more greenhouse gases to get the fuel to the BEV than the ICE engine. That is true. But the big part is once you get that fuel in the engine, EV emits 0 greenhouse gases as opposed to an ICE engine, which is that green part. And that is where obviously you make up the road, make up your make up the benefit in greenhouse gases. Just quickly level set this too. It depends on what part of the country you're in. If you're in a country with a lot of renewable power sources to power the grid, that picture on the right shows you have a break-even point at 19,000 miles, which means if you drive a electric vehicle up to 19,000 miles, if you would stop driving at 19,000 miles, it wouldn't matter which car you would have had, an ICE or a bad electric vehicle. Anything over 19,000 miles, it's a benefit to have the electric vehicle as far as carbon emissions. If you drive that car only 10,000 miles and get rid of it, it would have been better to have an ICE engine, if that makes sense. But then if you go to a part of the country that's got a lot of coal and natural gas powering the grid, that equilibrium is higher. So the less renewable the grid is, the higher those numbers go. So if you go into a part of the country like West Virginia, where a lot of coal is on the grid, that break even is at like 82,000 miles. So you'd have to drive that EV 82,000 miles before it's actually beneficial to the environment compared to an ICE engine. So again, all things we should know and understand. I probably went through this kind of fast, but all good stuff to know. And then last thing I'll talk about headwinds to EV adoption. Again, range anxiety is number one. Charge reliability, that's huge. I think that's a big part where Franklin Electric is playing. Up to 25% of chargers at this point are down at any one time, and people do not like that. That is not Tesla. That's everything non-Tesla. So only 70% of the time these chargers are up, and that's a big, huge headwind to adoption. Cost of EVs, obviously, they are more expensive. What do we do with the people who don't have a garage and can charge these things overnight? We got to figure that out. The weight of the EVs is becoming an issue. We're understanding that since these are about 1,000 pounds more heavy, the tires are wearing faster. You got more tire pollution, so that is becoming a bit of a headwind. And then obviously the material and the lithium-ion batteries and sourcing that and making sure we have enough of that to build out the EV industry is a concern. So that was a quick, holy cow, in 10-minute nutshell. So thank you.
Awesome. Such great information. Thank you so much, Mark. Everybody, maybe hang on to your questions. Let's have Erin go into her presentation and then we'll open up to discussion. So Erin, do you have your presentation or would you like Jason to share his screen?
Let me see if I can get it to work. Oh, it says I can't. So would you mind, Jason?
You're
sorry.
No, we'll get you set up.
You should be able to now. Try now.
Oh, let me try again. Okay. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, let me see if this works.
Looks good, Erin.
Okay, it's switched screens on me, so I'm looking over to the side now. So. But all right.
All good.
Great. Yeah, very nice to be with you all this morning. Thank you so much for your time. And I just want to sort of echo some of the comments from Mark. Like the EV space is incredibly dynamic right now. I mean, my news feed is just full of stories, and every day there is something that kind of turns the world upside down. So it's really dynamic. It's really exciting. There's a lot of great things happening. There's a lot of really, dynamic companies and, people really have some cool ideas. So really exciting space to be in right now. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time. So kind of thinking through, like, I think Mark did a great job sort of setting the table here, because there is so much happening. And I think, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. And I think, there's a lot of mixed messages out there. So I think that was really nice. Thank you for kind of setting that up. So I work for MG&E. We have a lot of offerings. We're trying to kind of help our customers through this as well. And we're learning as we go as well. And so I just wanted to kind of run through some of the things that we're working on, and that, programs that we have and things to help our customers through this transition. So I'll start off here with planning. So if you're interested, or your business is interested in looking at EVs, you're in that planning phase. So we have a few things available to you. One of those things is our Explore My EV tool. It's on our website. This is a tool that allows you to compare different vehicles, and it looks at like the price of the vehicles, the range of the vehicles, and then you can also look at different like charging options. So as Mark showed, there was that level 1, level 2, level 3 charging. It'll do some analysis on like how long it'll take you to charge at those different chargers based on these vehicle types. And then the cost. One thing is you can compare your costs, the electric cost versus gas, but also within electricity, there are different rates that you can go on. And so that can impact your electric bill as well. So a couple cool tools there for you to kind of poke around with and help you with your planning. We also partner with a company that has a fleet analysis tool that we make available. So we're primarily focused on nonprofit and community-based organizations. This tool will use the geotab information from the vehicles, kind of monitor where the fleet is driving and how many miles are they putting on, and then what is the age of the vehicles, what look like good EV replacements, and then make recommendations as fleet managers are sort of looking to turn their fleet over. What are the best options for electrifying? And so we work with customers on that. And then, technical assistance related to service requirements. We are your utility provider, and we want to, be here for you. And so if customers are looking at this, there may be system upgrades and things that need to be considered. And so we're here to help kind of go through those, that provide that technical assistance. So, for example, level 3 charging is pretty intense. And so, we will need a heads up if you would like to place a level 3 charger somewhere. We're going to need to work closely with you on planning that, and that can take a little bit of time. So knowing earlier is better if anyone is looking to do one of those big level 3 chargers. Level 2 chargers, they're not as complex. There is still some planning involved. So I would still recommend reaching out as soon as if you'd like to put in a bank of level 2 chargers, but it's not as complex. The level 3 is really where we want to hear about those as soon as possible. All right, so we have a few programs. One for residential charging. We have 2 offerings. One is called Charge at Home. And for Charge at Home, the way it works is MG&E will provide a level 2 charger at your house for a monthly fee. There's no upfront cost to you if you have a standard installation. We do have customers on our grid that do need to upgrade their service from 100 amp to 200 amp. And so this program doesn't cover that expense. But if you have 200 amp service, we'll cover the branch circuit from your panel to your charger and provide the charger for a monthly fee with no upfront cost. This is good. And again, going back to kind of what Mark said, there are 3 levels of charging. Level 1 is a standard outlet. And what I always tell people is, like, I am an EV driver. I've had an EV for almost 4 years. I have only used a level 1 charger until about 3 weeks ago. So most of my driving is in town. I do have 2 kids that I shuffle around to activities, but I have been fine just plugging my EV into an outlet. We got a new garage, so now we have a bigger outlet, but that worked just fine for me for years. But if you're a person who, does drive a lot more, maybe you're commuting a further distance, a level 2 charger is super convenient. Will charge your car up in the matter of like 4 hours. And then you'll be good to go. So you can look at our Charge at Home program. We also have Charge Ahead program. This is a program that you can earn an incentive if you let MG&E shift your charging for you. And we do this by working with the vehicle manufacturers. Not all vehicles have an open, they call it an open API that we can use, but going in there and sort of managing when the cars are charging, we're sort of like orchestrating when the cars are charging. And the reason that we do that, I'm going to actually go to the next slide. The reason that we do that is we're trying to shift that charging to times when the grid isn't as stressed and strained. So nighttime generally right now. So it helps us sort of reduce that demand. I mean, if you remember in the pandemic, there was a whole flatten the curve. You didn't want to like slam the healthcare system. It's similar on the grid. So we want to like flatten the curve and kind of spread it out over time. And so we can use that. We can use the vehicle telematics, or we can use chargers depending on the manufacturer of the charger, but we can help manage charging. And then we'll pay you if you participate and you allow us to manage your charging. We'll pay you. It's $8 a month in the summer and $4 a month in the winter. So we do have an opt-out. So like if you needed your vehicle and you needed to override it, that's fine. The customer always can override the management. For business charging, we're in the process of launching our workplace, apartment, and actually it's broader now. It's multifamily and fleet charging. These will be similar to that residential charging program where MG&E will provide the level 2 charger at your site. It's a 7-year commitment. There's the monthly fee for it. And then after that 7 years, we turn it over to you, you take full ownership of it. During that 7 years, MG&E will provide, help with operation and maintenance for you. These are network chargers as well. So these chargers communicate with us, and we can use them potentially for, responding to events or managing charging a little bit as well. The one thing about the workplace and apartment charger program is that if you put one of these at your site, we'll work with you to configure it so that you can charge drivers, because if you want to, have your employees or something charging there and you would like them to pay, we can work with you to configure that so that you can collect payment and be reimbursed for the electricity cost. So let's see. And another thing that is sort of different with EVs is they can impact your demand side of your rate and your bill because they can be demand intensive. And so we have a rate that if you put your charging on a separate meter, we can kind of step you into that demand rate sort of slowly over time. So it's not sort of a shock. So it's a 5-year plan, and we start with like an 80% discount on demand rates, and then 60 and 40 down to 0. It does require a dedicated meter, but this is something for customers. Again, if you're looking at a lot of level 3 chargers or heavy demand, this might be a good option for you as well. And then lastly, we have an extensive public charging network. We have about 50 level 2 chargers throughout the greater Madison area. We have 5 DC fast charge point charging stations throughout Madison. We have one here on our campus. We've got the Kelly's Markets, East and West. There's one out by the airport. So we have a few DC fast charging stations throughout. And then we have recently opened our EV charging hub, which has 8 Shell Recharge DC fast chargers. And these are very fast. These chargers, the fastest ones are 350 kW. So we have those at the hub. Our public charging network is powered by renewable energy. So we buy renewable energy credits for the energy used through our public chargers. You can find a map on our website. And then in the public charging space, we're always looking to, deploy new technology. So we are working on a demonstration project or a pilot. These new kind of chargers called pole-mounted chargers. These are level 2 chargers, and they actually can go up on a utility pole. So they're a little bit less expensive to install. And so that might help us, like, we want to test them first, but that might help us like scale broadly, because another issue that Mark raised in his presentation was this: some people don't have access to a garage. In fact, more than half of our customers live in multifamily buildings where they might not have access to a garage, and so you need a place to plug in. These pole mounted chargers, if we like them, and again, we're just in the testing phase now, but if we like them and we want to deploy them around, they might be an easier solution to kind of scale up quickly because they just go right on the utility pole. So yeah, so that's just kind of an exciting thing, new technology that we're looking at. But you can find more information about our public charging network on our website. And that was my last slide. So I will stop sharing.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Mark. Such great insights and exciting to hear what's happening in the broader market, but also right here in Madison. So I will open it up to questions from the group. Let's start out with Chuck.
Thanks. I was just wondering if the electric vehicles that have the open AI that allow you to manage the charging, if the list of those vehicles is available on your website. We're in the market for a new vehicle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I can, I actually don't have it pulled open here. I'm gonna grab that website and drop it in the chat. But yeah, we work with a vendor on this, and they have an app. So the way that program works is, you download this app. It's called EV Energy, and that's that you can find that in the App Store. And then when you're enrolling through the app, there's a code you put in there, which is MGE Charge, and then that'll start you through the enrollment process. But yeah, let me grab that link too here. Take me just a second.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks. I think people will be interested in checking that link out. What other questions do folks have? Well, I have one I will throw out to you. I'm just curious for both of you, like what is of all the developments, and there obviously are many that are happening in the space, what are you most excited about here in Madison?
Excited to be in a community that really is embracing this. When you look at the map, I think EPRI publishes a map, which like of all the counties and like where adoption is happening, and you really have this like glowing orange box right in our area. And so I think our customers are excited about it. We're excited to kind of be at the forefront of it, and
Yeah, from my point of view, I'm going to echo that 100%. I mean, Madison is a leader in all this stuff for sure. That's a great place to live and be part of the journey. And just, there's so many people in Madison that's leading the charge in EV. And, obviously one I think of is Mahant with the city. And he is so passionate about this. And when he goes and talks, he brings that passion and emotion with him that really sells the story. So yeah, it's a great town, great set of people. We're leading the charge, and no place I'd rather be right now for sure.
Awesome. Looks like we've got a couple of questions coming into the chat. First one is from Bill Putnam. He has got a link here and says, Erin, could you talk about the August 19th pole mounted charger kickoff event?
Yeah, so we are, like I said, we're installing our very first one. It's going to be near Worthington Park. And we're going to be doing so the Salvation Army is nearby. We're going to be doing, they have their annual backyard bash, and we're going to be kind of attending that event. We're going to have a car there. We're going to have the charger there, so people can kind of check it out. The pole mounted chargers are a little interesting. They're way up high, and there's a little QR code and an RFID code you can scan, and then it actually drops it drops the cord from the sky, and you can plug in there. So we're going to be there demoing that at the Backyard Bash event. I think it's on the 18th, but yes. And then, yeah.
Yeah, and then Dave Benferato has one as well. Could Mark and Aaron comment on the developing USED EV market and how that developing market may provide options for consumers?
The used market.
Thanks, Dave.
Wait, what
I'm
was
too
the
used to
question?
acronyms everywhere.
I'm sorry, what was
The
that question
used
about?
EV market.
The question was, what are the opportunities with it, or I'm sorry, I missed the question. You
No,
said
it's a developing new market, the marketplace for used EVs. And what sort of options will that present for consumers out there now that it's developing?
Yeah, I'm super excited about the developing used EV market because I think, you know, to date, they've not been accessible to everyone. You know, the manufacturers, you know, there are some exceptions, like if you look at like the Chevy Bolt or the Nissan Leaf, but primarily a lot of them have been, you know, the manufacturers been focused on sort of this like super high-end luxury market, and they haven't really been like broadly accessible to, you know, a lot of consumers. And so I think that is exciting because, you know, as that used market sort of develops, it's going to provide more access. And they do, you know, when you look at the total cost of ownership, if you're buying a used EV that's already, you know, been depreciated a little bit, and then the fuel savings in that electric to gas comparison, it can be a really economic decision from a total cost of ownership perspective. And the federal government actually also, as a part of the IRA funding, is offering, I think it's $7,500 to income qualified customers to purchase a used EV. So that's going to make them really affordable, accessible, and it's, you know, bringing that total cost of ownership down should, you know, help alleviate some transportation burdened and transportation cost burdened individuals. So I think that is super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I'd add to that is, I mean, it is such a small market still, so there's a lot to learn for sure. I think a lot of people are going to have concern about the battery and how much battery life is going to be left, and if they're going to have to replace that. And you know, EV batteries, they should, you know, if it's a good battery, you should get about 200,000 miles out of it. So the market should be fine. But there's, in the EV market with any other market, there's so much misconception and just not good information. So I'll be worried that people are concerned about battery life when they shouldn't be. But yeah, it's a small market. It's interesting to see how that's going to develop for sure.
Yeah, great insight. Thanks to you both for that one. Let's go to Chuck for another question.
Yeah, thanks. The market is definitely still developing. The subsidies are not, in my experience, are not working the way they were intended. We put our name on the list for a RAV4 Prime, a plug-in hybrid. Waited over a year. We went to the dealer, and the dealer had marked the vehicle up above and beyond MSRP, exactly the amount of the federal subsidy. And you know, we're like, we don't want to pay that. I'm like, well, there's a list of 200 people behind you that, you know, we'll just keep going through the list until someone does. Their alternative to that was a used plug-in hybrid that was they were selling for more than the MSRP as well. So I think it's going to take a while until there's enough product out there to meet the demand before the market really settles down.
That's such a good point, Chuck, and especially coming out of the supply chain crunches over the past couple of years, just amplifying all that. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was just going to say pretty much exactly that. Yes, the supply chain crunch, I think, especially hit the EV market tough at a bad time, right? When the government was trying to, like, you know, jumpstart this market. It was hard. There were a lot of long waiting lists. And actually, interestingly, I just read an article that now that demand, that supply is starting to catch up. There was actually an interesting article, and I'm not 100% sure I'm not exactly sure about if this is the right metric to look at, but like how long EVs are sitting on lots, and it's, you know, roughly equivalent, if not even a little bit more than gas, because I think there's still some hesitancy. But yes, that has been a huge issue. Yeah, and hopefully the supply side can catch up a little bit here.
Yeah, I have nothing additional to add on that one. It's all been said. So yeah, I mean, I've seen those articles, and yeah, I mean, it looks like the supply on the lots are getting, I mean, some people are starting to worry. It depends what article you read. Some people are starting to worry that the amount of supply in the lots is an indication that, people are slowing down buying EVs. So there's so much information out there, but yeah, I've seen articles saying, I don't know if it's the F-150 that as soon as these incentives came out, they increased the price by $7,500. So I don't want to say it was the F-150, it was some one out there, but yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now.
No, thank you. Gary, did you have a
Yeah.
question too?
Yeah, well, I've owned a Chevy Volt for over 9 years. And based on Mark's presentation, I'm not sure I want to trade it in. And I was looking at it. I mean, I don't have any distance anxiety with that car. And we do go, one of our trips we like to take is a little over 300 miles to the Upper Peninsula. And the cars we've been looking at buying have a range of about 300, or they say 305 or whatever. If we rolled into town, we won't get out. And we've got to be able to supposedly around Rhineland or something, if they had a charger, we could stop on the way up and get full and maybe get into Escanaba and get back out. And maybe not. I mean, there is a real problem with the range anxiety, and the charging stations just aren't getting built at any rate that would help us out. So maybe I got the right car, even if it's 9 years old. And does the battery deteriorate? Yeah, a little bit, but not that bad. In 9 years, I've only had to do 2 things with the car. One was the air conditioning, nothing to do with the propulsion system. And one time they had to redo the software. Otherwise, they're the most dependable automobile you could ever want. So we do have a ways to go. And I wish I wasn't so old. I'd like to be around 10 years from now. This would be a much better system.
Awesome. Yeah, such a good point. And yeah, much to come. So thank you. I know we're coming up on time, Mark and Aaron, for the wonderful insights that you shared and for the wonderful work that you're doing. I really appreciate your time today and sharing with the group. I will hand it off to Jason to wrap us up for the morning.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron and Mark. It was a fantastic presentation. We appreciate it. We also appreciate, of course, as always, our partners involved in here. And I miss Chuck Strasser, who also works at UW, when I was thanking UW for the Arboretum agreement. Sorry, Chuck, I didn't see you there. But thank you for that work. We do have a couple of events coming up here, 2 large ones you may be interested. Speaking of the university, our next What's Up Downtown breakfast on August 24th, 7:45 to 9 a.m. at the Edgewater Hotel has Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin. So she'll be our presenter. And then lastly, we have our annual celebration all set and ready to go on Thursday, September 21st from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. on the top of the Monona Terrace. We're wishing for great weather again this year. So hopefully we'll see you there as well. And thank you for Morgan for putting those in the chat. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully we'll see you downtown. See you at the next meeting. Talk to you soon.
Right.
Thank you.